Okay. And Lance, if you can just, I think you do this. I only check the minutes sometimes when I like forget something, which is happening more often. But you do the attendance, right, in each one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. I'm gonna go back and take a look at that. I've got some questions. Okay. So actually, I'm gonna knock this out right now. So Solomon's not here. I'm gonna just put this in my Susan, just Sergi for you. Susan's at a graduation. She told us 2 months ago that she couldn't be here for this. So it just worked out that way. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with you guys. I still can't get my face on camera. Like I never wanted it on before, and now I actually do. And it's like, no, you can't. Okay, let me share my screen. Weird stuff might come up first because I don't know how to do this flawlessly here. What one do I want to share? I want to share. Okay, you can see that, I assume. So I just crossed out the people who are not here. I haven't heard anything from Solomon. Has anybody heard anything from him? No,
I
I'll take that
haven't.
as okay. I'll send him an email, just make sure he's okay and just check in with him. And so Susan, again, I said Susan is at her nephew's graduation, which she told us about a couple months ago. Ruth emailed a couple days ago and said that she is going to a different meeting instead of this meeting. And then Hazel, for Sergi, just so you know, you're probably wondering where Hazel is, but Hazel is having an allergic reaction to something right now. So she might jump in later, but probably not. So that's where everybody is. Upcoming board meetings, we've got July 10th, August 14th, September 11th, November 13th, and December 18th. Those have not changed at all. I think those will be fairly easy to do and to meet for most of us. I'm just trying to think about like summer travel and stuff for anybody, but it's not really around holidays, so hopefully those will work. The July 10th one, I could see not necessarily working out, but maybe it'll be fine. Okay, so now I'm going to give it to Sergi to take it away on membership. I can't hear you. You're muted.
Hold on. All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So we are at 5:02. We dipped 34 people since April. I have reached out to them, sent a renewal reminder. We are trying to figure out in terms of just lapsed members, and I think a 3-month period is what we're deciding on. Folks who have their membership has lapsed for at least 3 months, we want to reach out to them and say, hey, what's going on? So I sent out an email today to those members, and hopefully they will re-up. We are in the process of culling members who are receiving the newsletter. Well, who aren't members, people who are receiving the newsletter who are not necessarily members of the freelance community. We want to make that an express benefit of being a member. So, and the newsletter, the weekly newsletter that you guys work really hard on is definitely a perk of being part of the freelance community. So one of the things that we're working with is we're trying to find out the folks who are actually members and trying to just call them from the people who are not necessarily members. And I'll be reaching out to those people as well, so they can actually join the freelance community. And I expect for that to cause a bump in our numbers, hopefully.
Sergi, is this part, I might have put this on the wrong thing, the stuff that you guys emailed me.
No, it's good.
What
I'm glad you put that there, because I was hoping Hazel was gonna talk a little bit about that, but that's what you see, what everyone sees in that newsletter portion. That's a brief analysis that Hazel did in regards to the people that receive the newsletter, and sort of a breakdown of what we're
Okay.
working on. So I think it's over 1,000 people who receive our newsletter, and I believe she said 917 are actually people who are actually freelance members, or I might be actually completely wrong with that. I was hoping Hazel to talk about that, but because if I'm not mistaken, I think there were less than half, 1,000 people who were members, but only 500 were freelance members. So anyway, I am confused about that portion, but there are more people who are receiving the newsletter who are not actual freelance members, that I know for sure. And we're going to be working on that, reaching out to those people, having them actually sign up as members, and hopefully that will translate into more members in the freelance community. I hope I didn't one with that. I did attend the national membership committee. This good group. They were talking just about, sounds like they're just getting their feet off the ground. They were talking a little bit about having some continuity with their board. They talked about perhaps their term for 2 years. And I'm going to see if I can check in regularly with them. But they are also struggling with some of the problems with Epexium, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
And they're dealing with that, and just talking about how they can get a handle with that in terms of just getting all the numbers down, because everyone knows that all the chapters are having problems with nailing down specific numbers of their membership, which is one of the things we're dealing with as well. I had to contact Crystal about specific members who may or may not actually have relapsed. So there's a lot of confusion across the board with what you're doing with Impexium. So I'll be joining them again, popping in regularly to see how we can contribute on that front. So I think
Are
that's
you,
my part.
is that a board that you get appointed to, or that I wonder if you, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if you'd
I
be
have
great on
no
that board.
Right. I have no idea. Hazel asked that I join. I'm not sure if it's a board appointment. I'm not sure. When I was on the call, it was 3 other folks on there. First time I was there, and then my computer tanked out towards the end. I emailed Joanna, who was leading the meeting. She didn't get back to me. I told her, I said I tried to get back on. I'm not sure if they actually ended their meeting within half an hour. So hopefully she'll get back to me. I'll ask some more questions about that. But
Okay.
it seems like a valuable use of my time. I mentioned more than once that we are over 500 strong, and we should have, I think, a say on the national board. So
Yeah, but and not even that, just getting the brains together to talk about how to retain members, how to get new members, just all of that kind of stuff. They,
right,
4 people
and
sitting around talking about it might come up with something
right,
better,
and it really sounds like they're in the infancy stages.
Yeah,
So
okay.
this is a good time to jump on. I'll
Yeah.
be checking the calendar, because I think they meet once a month in the
I mean,
mornings.
and that's true too. Even if they're like, no, we don't need anybody on the board, nor anybody else. Like, you don't need to be. Just show up to the meetings if they're open
Exactly.
meetings. Yeah, it's
Right.
great. I mean, I would come to some of those too. If you let me know, I don't necessarily keep track of all the meetings that SPJ has, but if you let me know, I will. I'd like to come to one of those if you let me know when they
Sure.
are.
And they mentioned us several times. I think they're very well aware how much of a thriving community we are. So I think they would love to have us on. We're a great group, very welcoming groups. I just need to, hopefully Joanna
Oh,
will
good.
get back to me in
Okay.
terms of just what's going on. But that's the end of my report.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome.
You're welcome.
Um, the mini grant proposal. This is something that Hazel and Susan and I work on behind the scenes. We've done a little bit of that by email recently. Hazel was going to talk about that in front of everybody. We were going to vote on this as far as the amount and what it could be used for. We have emailed um, about the specifics. And, I won't say what we said about him yet. Because I don't want to like, influence anybody's vote. I want you to look at it and see what this is coming from the freelance fund, the money from the freelance fund. And I think what's going to happen now, because we don't want to wait until the next meeting, and because Hazel was having an allergic reaction today, I'm going to send this out in an email. Hazel's going to send me some information. I'm going to put it in kind of a formal as I can email to, I don't know, make it look like a formal email vote, I guess. And then we'll just we're going to have you vote basically by email, since we can't do it tonight. So that's what's happening with that. So keep an eye out for that. Probably be in the next week or so. Sergi just went over some of these numbers with you. I will tell you, I am the digital editor of goodtaste.tv, as well as the TV producer on the TV side of it. But this open, like it's 50%, it's about a 50% open rate. My newsletter goes out to 65,000 people twice a week. And I am ecstatic when I get a 30% open rate. I'm like, what did I wrote gold. I was amazing this week. I'm like, this was the best I've ever done, right? Just to get 30%. So to get 50%, I just have to commend the group again, commend Lance, commend just outstanding that stays at that number week after week after week. It's really, that shows you the value that we do. Open rates are not usually that good. 30%, my TV team does not think is bad. We're actually pretty good with that. But I feel devastated when I get to like when I get into 26 or 27%. I'm like, God, what did I do wrong? What did I write about? People don't want to read this. Anyway, so those numbers really matter. And I bet that Lance, I don't know if you open the MailChimp reports, but Hazel does. And I'd be interested to hear what Hazel thinks about the opens. If she's like, oh, only 44%, because it messes with your head. Do you ever get those reports, Lance? Can you open them, or is it kind of Hazel's the one doing that?
Yeah, I've gone in there and looked a time or two.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, because I didn't get it to 50%. I'm just maintaining it the best I can.
Well, that's a huge thing though. Maintaining it that's sometimes harder, right? Sometimes the first the first year of a newsletter, maybe everybody's opening it, and then they're like, oh, I've seen this before, I don't need to keep opening this. But the fact that everybody is still opening it week after week after week is just impressive. I
think it's mostly what you guys are sending in. Hazel does the brunt of the work, sending in stuff, and Janelle and Serhi.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, Serhi and Sergi. I gotta make sure I keep know who you're talking about. So anyway, with the oh, what was I gonna say? Oh, with the newsletter, well, you know what? We'll talk about that with the webinar. I'm not going to talk about that right now. I put that down to the webinars part. So the newsletters and the jobs and all of that stuff, anytime, if any of you are seeing a job, I know Janelle's doing that, but if any of you come across one, see one, that doesn't mean you have to like write anything for it. You can just forward that to Janelle. If you do not have Janelle's email, let us know. And we'll get it to you, but you can or just forward it to Lance, and he can send it to Janelle, and she'll put it in the right format and she'll write it up. But if you see something that comes into oh, this looks interesting, but you don't even have time to vet it, send it and say, I haven't vetted this, but wanted to send it your way, so that she knows, let me look into this and make sure it's not, weird.
Yeah, and I want to second what you said about the 30%. My new job, I'm doing a newsletter. It's a daily, and we have, I don't know, maybe 1,000 people who read it. But yeah, we're at about 20 to 30% each day. So it is incredible.
Yeah, the 50%'s amazing. That's unheard of. But doesn't it mess with your head if you're 30% like several days in a row and then it's all of a sudden you're 21%? It's like, what did I do? Did I send it out at the wrong
Yeah.
time? Like, what
Yeah.
happened?
You look at the time and you're like, 15 minutes later, it would have done better.
Yep,
Maybe. I don't know.
exactly. And I write everything on our newsletter, and I'm like, oh, great. What did I put in there that everybody hated? I actually put a thing in the other day I did for National Donut Day. I put like a dozen of the best donut shops in Texas, because Texas is known for donut shops. I don't know if you guys know that. So all these amazing donut shops, nothing like Dunkin'. It's just like all like mom and pop shops. And some of them have been voted like the best in America and whatever. And then I also attached to that a story about that I did on where to get free donuts on National Donut Day. And I'm like, this is going to boost us to 35% because it's free donuts. It's free food. Of course, everybody's going to open it. Nope, 27%. So I don't know what the magic. So I don't know. I should just like, maybe I need to include jobs in it the way we do with our newsletter. See if that does it. So I don't know what the secret is. Okay, so resources. I'm just going to quickly go over this because Hazel is not here. I have not scheduled a Zoom meeting for this yet. I know Nicole was interested in coming to this. We do still need volunteers for this. I can make this happen after June 30th, but I cannot do it before because of the family stuff that's going on in Colorado and the end of the school year that we're in right now. I really would love you to come to this. I know it's obviously you don't have to, but just even if you're like, yeah, I don't think I want to do that, but maybe I'll listen to it, because there could be something that you come up with just listening to it that has, like, oh, that might be a better way to do it, right? Like, I just would love to have some brains in this, and it's too much to do in a meeting like this. We need a separate, it could be like a 45-minute Zoom call or a 30-minute, maybe 30 minutes to start, probably 45 minutes to go through it, but it'd be good to hear other people's thoughts on it. I would love to get everybody there, as many people as possible. That does not mean you're volunteering for this, but it means here, this is what we need. We're talking to you about it. Maybe you have some ideas, but if you're thinking about volunteer, this might push you one way or the other. Hopefully not out the door, but so that's what so we'll do that. That'll probably happen sometime in July. The same thing with oh no, not the same thing. Okay. So that's the volunteers. I don't have the other, those are the two, there's two databases. We're going to talk about that in July. The On Your Own guide is several years old. Ruth has gone in and updated that a lot over the last couple of years, like updated with different things, but there's still a lot that needs to be done with this before we can put this out and feel good about it. We need more modern, we just need more current stuff in there, like AI tools, any kind of journalism tools, Google tools, new tips, technologies, how to work for different mediums and crossover, and why you should know how to shoot video, even if you've only ever done print, and shoot it on your iPhone, and just have the basics of that. So there's all sorts of like little things like that we don't have in there that we need to add to this. There are 38 sections listed in our shared Google Drive for this in the On Your Own guide. It is a lot. I have invited all of you to have edit access to this. I do not want you to edit it, but I do want you to read it. So this is a lot, and this isn't something you're going to do in like a few days. But we need to go through it. We need to get it finalized and get it done, and then put out, and hey, this is an updated copy from 2024. This should absolutely be for members only, never, ever, ever shared with, if you're not a member of the freelance community, like you have to be an SPJ member and member of the freelance community, not just like on the Facebook page. I've got some ideas on how to do this. So again, some of the sections are not super long, it's not like they're all 30 pages long or something, but I have thought that we could each take sections and make notes in the copy, or on hard copy, or everyone read each section and make notes in the copy or on a hard copy. I'm thinking a hard copy might be better, but I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this yet. And then another idea is like read each section, make notes on each section in a new document so that we're not muddying anything up. We're not putting edit notes in. We're not doing any of that. And like, oh, you know, where we can then, after we have notes in a document, we can then sort of use one of these meetings and sort of go through and kind of a quick yes or no, like, yes, I think that needs to be in there. Yes, I think that needs to be in there. Yes, I agree. Let's take that out. Sort of a quick sort of once over, right? After we've got everybody's notes in there. That would be a doc that I create on the shared Google Drive. I will label it by section 1, section 2. I'll just give it the title that it has already in the guide or in the drive. And I'm open to everyone else's ideas on this. I'm not sure how best to do this. It's a lot. It's too much for one person to do. I would like to hear, some of us are better at other things than others, right? Like, so Susan and I could certainly handle a lot of the broadcast stuff and have some ideas on that, but maybe Lance is the right person to go to for the daily, like what he would add on that. And then there's stuff on taxes, and I think I haven't read the whole thing yet. And maybe Ruth really needs to be the one who only, you know what I mean? Like if you've got stuff to add and an expertise, you know, or like some kind of if you know some of this stuff, you might have more comments than in other sections. Like I'm never going to comment on taxes, right? I haven't paid my taxes in a long time. Should I admit that on a recording? I shouldn't. I do pay my taxes. I do, but it takes a while. I'm usually really late with it. So I guess I'm just throwing it out there to see what everybody thinks about how to best go about this.
We are all law-abiding citizens.
Yes, we are.
I popped it in the chat, but with the really cool thing about like Google Docs and using that platform is you can change it to making suggested edits. And like, so the difference to me would be like, if someone is reading through and like I catch like a typo or something, like I would say like that's something that someone should just fix.
Just change, yes.
Right. But like if it's like, should we add something about this? You could either add a comment, or if someone is like, oh, like there's not a natural jump and I have an idea to write this, they could type it in as a suggested edit. And then you can click like accept or deny. And if you accept it, it's there. And if you deny it, it just magically goes poof.
So if there's like 7 editors, how muddy does that get? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, like, so then you would see other people's suggested edits. So then you wouldn't be trying to change or comment on
I see.
portion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That like, oh yeah, that's good. They like, you might have an idea, but somebody else, oh, I like that better. Forget it. Just leave it. Okay.
And you could respond like via comments too. And like, so it may be a lot. There could be several sections where there's a lot of comments on top of suggested edits that you have to like work your way through, but it's doable.
Okay.
It's kind of meant to be a collaborative thing. And if we run into it not being doable, we could change the game plan easily.
I wonder if we should start, if each person should start in like a different set of 5, right? Like Lance does 1 through 5 or 0 through, you know, whatever table of contents through 5, and then I'll do 6 through 10. You know what I mean? Like I wonder if that's where we start, and then we go on through the list like that, so that the first person to get to this isn't doing the brunt of it on everything. You know what I mean? Like the first person who gets to this, if there's no other edits and they're adding everything, the next people who get to it, like, oh yeah, that's already been done. Okay, great. Yep, click. Oh yeah, that's good. You know what I mean? Like, I just think if we split it up that way, where we each sort of take a few things to be the first to add comments, and then we can continue on through. Does that make sense, right?
Yeah, I
like
would just add that this is the sort of project that I really like because I can have an overall deadline, but it's not something that you need to like book in, a set time on the third Thursday of the month, where
Right.
that's a little bit
Yep.
harder. I do it, chunks at a time. Oh, I have 15 minutes. I have 20 minutes. Oh,
Yes.
it's midnight and I can't, send a bunch of emails because people will think I'm a crazy person.
Well, should we just let people go with it and not worry about, hey, you start with this section, you start with that? Should we just let people go, and wherever you don't have to go in order then. Don't start at the top necessarily. I don't know if that's a good idea either. But like each section is its own entity, right? Like it's on a specific topic. I think that we could yeah, maybe that's the best way to do it, Nicole, is nobody has a section. We just all go in and just eventually get through all 38 sections.
I mean, but if you wanted to assign like these are your sections to like, I don't know, like be more thorough with, or to pay super close attention to. I mean, that also makes sense.
Yeah, and the only thing with that is that I don't know everybody's strengths well enough. I don't think to be like, oh, here you do this, you do this. And I think I think there's a lot on there, right? So I think that we could divvy it up just by number, like I said, right? Like 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15 or whatever. And have the person start there. What I want to do is not just say, here's 38 sections, read through this, make comments, and then come back to us, right? Because what is that? Like, who's gonna, does everybody have time before July 10th or whatever to do this? I don't know. I mean, I have like, I don't know, probably a week and a half that I'm free between now and then, which I could get through some stuff, but I've got scripts and funerals and school and whatever to finish, So I don't know how much I'm going to get to, but if we have these sections, we can at least get through or make the effort to get through just the few that we have. And then we come in July, we come and say, you know what, I was able to go through these 5 sections. That's all I was able to get to, but this is what I did. And now I'm moving on to the next 5 for the next month. And that sounds like it might take a while, but I'm telling you that this has been going on for more than 2 years. So if this takes us 3 or 4 months, it's still more than what we had. So I think it's worth it to put the effort in and to take the time to go through it when we can. I don't want anybody rushing through it like, oh, I've got 4 minutes right now. I'm just going to quickly do one section just to say I did it. I'd rather you not do it in that case, right? But when you do have, like Nicole said, 15 minutes here or 20 minutes there, and you can get through one section, or half a section, right? Like, I think that's so valuable overall. And I think if we just sort of plug away at it, we'll get there. It is not going to be done by July meeting, right? So maybe I will do that. Let's try it for this month, where I'll just send out, can you please start with these sections? I'm going to start with these sections. Please, you start with these. And then we'll just go from there. And see how it works. And if people are like, oh my God, this is terrible, I don't want to do this, then we'll know that in our July 10th meeting, and we will go back to the drawing board and figure out how to get this done.
Something to note with the suggested edits, though, just so people know, it's up at like the top task bar, like it'll be right under where you would share the document. If you're using Chrome, I use Chrome, or if you were to like add or switch which Gmail account you're using. And it's just like up at the right hand top, and you have to toggle down to make it the suggested edits. Just as a like side note.
Perfect. Okay. Probably I mean, I've had this as the receiver, you know what I mean? I've had editors do this, so I know that side of it. So probably a lot of us have seen it already, but I'm usually the one reading them, not making them. Okay, I'm writing all this down. Okay, so let's just try it and we'll see. And if it doesn't work, who cares, right? There's bigger things in life to worry about, but we're going to make an attempt at this. Okay. Let's move along, and thank you for the input on that, Nicole. I appreciate it. The partnership with regional conference, I'm going to leave this on there until we know one way or the other. So I'm just going to leave it on there and ask every month for an update from Nicole. So any updates?
I don't. I'm still trying to secure location, because that's the biggest, like it would be the biggest expense, and B, it determines, I mean, it's kind of like when you're planning a wedding, like your venue determines how many people you could accommodate and
Right.
when you have it and all of those things. I have not heard back from the venue that I thought that, the school that I thought would be really good. And I had emailed them about other things as well. So I may just give them a call this week. May was kind of crazy. My husband had surgery and then an ER trip with a mandolin slicer.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Wait, for you or him?
For him, not for me, for him.
Okay. Okay. Well, those
I don't
are
know if
pretty
you heard
dangerous.
him in the background. He said, I'm not touching that anymore.
He's right too. We hide it. I don't want my kids anywhere near it. It's super dangerous. Okay, well, we will keep this just on our radar and see. I know it's probably got about a month left before it's not going to happen. Just that's my guess. Right? Like if you don't have anything secured, not you specifically, but if we all together don't have anything secured by mid-July, I would think that we'd be
Yeah,
sort of
I would say if there's not anything by mid-July that
yeah.
it's not going to happen because that's too quick to try to pull together everything.
Okay. 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 Well, and actually I know what I wanted to say now 15 minutes ago. When we were talking about, Sergey was talking about, we're down 30-ish members or whatever it is, 38. I
34.
30. Okay. I expect people not to renew as much this year because there is no conference. I bet that is across the board with SPJ. There's no in-person conference. So if somebody who, let's say it's a young professional, might not have a whole ton of extra cash laying around and like, well, why I'm not doing this year. One of the big things I look forward to is the conference, and I don't need to pay to be a member if we're not even going to have a conference. So I don't think that's a huge amount of people, but I would not be surprised if some people don't renew this year because of that, but they might be back, right? That's my thought on that. So the other, okay, for the webinars, did this get done? Do we need to do this? We talked about it last month where we were talking about setting up a Google form so that Lance we can just fill it out when we get it. We have not had a webinar since then, so it might not have been done. It might be on the person who, which is probably going to be me, who ends up doing the next webinar to sort of create this template. We haven't done anything.
I created a document and sent it to everyone. It was kind of
Did I miss that email?
It might have been confusing because I used the May 29th text as a placeholder. So it might have seemed like it was for that, but it was actually just a placeholder text.
Oh, okay. I see it. Wait. Yes. Okay. So did you send it to everybody?
I think so. Yeah.
I see it now. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Yay. Okay. Perfect. Well, I'm glad that you put that on there because I would not have known about this and gone back to it. So, did you put it in the Google Drive?
I believe I made it in the Google Drive and then sent the link out to everyone. I'm not sure how I did it. I'll have to look back.
I'm just going to say shared an email, so I've got it. Okay. So I can go back and grab it. Okay. May 29th, we had a social media for journalists that Ruth was trying to get with the people. Susan and I followed up a couple times. I don't think she ended up she didn't find someone, but I think we didn't do it in time anyway. So we canceled that. I canceled that. leave that right there for a minute. The how to use AI as a journalist. So some webinars are easier than others. This is a good example. There's a lot of people who can talk about this. There's some people who are amazing. Amy Reinhart is one of them. She at first told me she could do the first week of July. That's when I emailed you guys a long while ago and I said, what do you think about doing it this week, right? It'd be July 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. 3rd is too close to the 4th. July 2nd is my anniversary. I'm just not going to do it on July 2nd. So I emailed her back and I asked her if any other week in July would work or only that first week. And I said, I think that might be too close to the 4th of July. I don't want to lose people for that. And she got back to me and said that she cannot do it until after the summer because she just decided she's just going to focus on writing. So that's the answer for her. So unless we push this off, and I don't even know if she would say yes, then that could have just been a way to decline politely. Ernest Kung was next on my list. He works with Amy. So I did not hear from him, nudged him again, and he declined. I have these other people that are down there as my alternative backups, but in looking, I did some research on each one of them. One's in the UK. I can't find Matea's email. I've spent maybe 30 minutes looking for it and I just couldn't find it. And Dahlia, I've sent a message to, but I sent a message to Srinivasan. I met him in 2012 at the Fort Lauderdale conference. He was at Columbia for 20 years, doing a lot of digital stuff. And he now is quite involved with AI and has lots of topics. So he owns his own company called Digi something. Like Diginomads. It's not that. That's a terrible name, but it's Digi something. And I couldn't email him directly. And I think I'm Facebook friends with him, but I didn't want to do it on Facebook. So I just emailed through like the fill out this form if you want me to speak. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to have to pay for this. But I just wrote my little spiel and told him I met him in 2012 and, blah, blah, blah. And he agreed to do it. So he's our guy. I just got the response right before this meeting, so I didn't give you the update in this, but Sri's going to be the one who does it. He does not need pay. So I'm very happy to hear that. So we are going to do this. I'm going to do this in July though. So that's where I wrote, this may not be the AI event. I'm just going to let him pick a date. Actually, I'm going to give him a date. I'm going to give him a few dates, not necessarily on a Wednesday. I'm just going to give him a few dates that are open in July, based on the Zoom calendar or the shared Zoom calendar so that I'm not locking them into one. I think that might have been part of my issue with the first couple of people because I was like, can you do this June 28th? And it's just such a specific date. Like I'd rather them tell us. So that's happening just in July instead of June. The podcast for freelancers, Susan said before she goes to Japan, she is going to try to email experts. I gave her the dates, August 28th. I think August 28th. Yeah, August 28th. So she's going to try to do that. September, no event. If anybody wants to put one in there, since we didn't have one in May, we could, but that's okay if we don't. October, we've got the retirement planning, and then December taxes. Those might be too closely related. Like money issues. I don't know how I feel about that at the moment. We can talk about that later, but there was the one on portfolios that might be, I don't know. We'll talk about that later. Taxes should happen in December though. Like that one should stay there. That'll be a good one each year to do. Here are my new guidelines on, feel free to add to this. I am not okay with taking away from this. But we can. I will listen to your argument for it, and we will discuss it. We had an issue that happened last webinar. There were a few people involved in the conversation about it, but we are going to start with webinars. I'm going to suggest this: that experts should be contacted with agreement of the date set, where they've said yes, I will do it on this day, before the webinar meeting is scheduled on Zoom, before I put it in the Zoom calendar, before Lance puts it in a newsletter, before anybody sends any link to anybody anywhere. So we have to have it confirmed before there's any publicity on it. I think we need there's always like, oh, we should advertise now. We should put it out. Oh, it's too late for 4 weeks. I don't think it is. I think 2-week notice is plenty of time. I think it needs to, that's the minimum though. So 2 weeks. And if it's 3 weeks, great. If you've got somebody nailed down 4 weeks ahead of time, perfect. We'll promote it for 4 straight weeks in the newsletter. We'll promote it every week until it happens, but we need at least a 2-week notice. So just for an example, the June 3rd newsletter that went out, the topic, if for the June 19th newsletter, or webinar, which is when this AI one was supposed to be, that would have had to go in the June 3rd newsletter. Because it did not, there was no way that was going to happen, right? So we've got to give people enough time to plan for it. And I do think 2 weeks is enough. Obviously 3 weeks is ideal. And the next one, no webinar can or should be scheduled or approved, assigned, announced, or any of that version of that without discussing it. Hi, Gussie. Without discussing it as a board. We need to be talking about it here. Just like we just talked about AI and podcasting. Doesn't have to be an in-depth conversation, but we have to know what they are, the dates. We need, I want the guest name in the when we talk about it. So when Lance puts it out in the newsletter, I would like to have the date, the topic, and the guest name. And I think that's a very professional way to do it. I don't know if I've ever signed up for one of these without knowing who the guest speaker is. So I think that should, please tell me if any of you disagree with any of these. And then my last one is that no board member should be coordinating more than 2 events in 1 year. For the people who do coordinate these, that might take some restraint to not schedule or to not do more just because I can do it. Let me do it. I really would like to have other people get involved with. I think everybody has done one. I just want to make sure that we don't have the same people saying, oh yeah, I'll do that. Let me find it. Or in case someone starts to do it and then they can't, and then someone picks it up and takes it and says, oh, I'll just do it. I just want to make sure that we're all putting these in, unless we create a new position next year that is the webinar coordinator, which could work wonderfully. And that would be the person who coordinates all of these. I also think that the person who does, remember, you're not hosting it. This is just the person who's going to take it or coming up with the idea necessarily. We've got the ideas. We kind of come up with those as a group at the end of the year or the first meeting of the year. And then we can, decide who's going to do each one. If somebody really wants to do, I feel very strongly about AI, so I really wanted to do that one. I couldn't make it in June, but instead of just giving up on it, I'm like, I'm just going to keep talking to people. I missed my June night. I missed the deadline for this. I just didn't hear back from enough people in time, the people that I wanted. And I was really kind of particular. So we can push it out. And that is the beauty of we sort of have one scheduled every other month. That was not the intended reason for that, but it actually has worked out quite nicely. So if we do miss one, like in June, I can't do it, then we push it to July, right? Because if that can get this person 3 weeks later, but not at this time. So anyway, I'm hoping that we can try to do that where no one is doing more than 2 events and no one's doing 2 in a row. So you do one, take a break. Someone else is the moderator for the next one. That needs to be where you coordinate it with the host or the guest, which is just an email and going back and forth, telling them what you want. And that's it. If you're not sure how to do that, I can give you like a little template of what I send to people. And also moderating on the night. So if you have taken it on, you need to make sure that it is a night that you can do it too. Not, I've got a meeting with another board. I've got something, like if I've got a soccer game to go to, I can't do it. You either miss it or you schedule it on another day. We really want the person who is coordinating this to be the moderator. That should not be passed off at the end to somebody else, mostly because you're the one who's been contacting that expert. And I don't want the expert to now all of a sudden on the night of have to know someone new. Like, oh, this is now the email I need. This is my contact person. Where'd this person go? So that's just to sort of overview of things I've been thinking of over the last month. If please add to this if you would like to, or if you disagree with something, please let me know. You might disagree with the minimum 2-week notice. You might want 3 weeks, and that's fine too. So the floor is everybody else's. I've been talking way too much. Someone has to chime in.
I just put in the chat that I've never set up one of these webinars.
Okay, so you would want to, oh, I haven't even looked at the chat. Lord, I probably should. So hold on. Oh, I haven't read the chat. Okay, hold on. Let me just been talking. Yay, Nicole, I'm glad you know Sri. I agree with the webinar guidelines. Okay, good. Thank you, Ginny. Sri did great at the New York City conference. That's awesome. And then, okay, so I don't know why this isn't working for me. Jump to the latest. Is that working? Hold on a second. Well, I don't know why I can't do it. So I can help you, or one of us can help you who's done it. Lance, really all we do for these is it's finding the experts, right? Once you have the topic, we want to find the experts. We don't want somebody who just like, oh, it's a friend and he's talked about this before and let's have this person do it. Sometimes that works. Hazel had her own accountant do the taxes and he was great. He was perfect at it. So it depends on the topic. But like for AI, this was going to be a really, it's kind of a sensitive issue, Sergi will tell you, that because some people really are on board and think, yep, we got to get on board or we're going to get left behind. We got to figure out how to use it. And some people are going to say that should never be used. So we've got to figure out, I have researched even more about this now. A lot more. And there are a lot of ways that I think most people have not considered yet. And I'm hoping that Sri will shine some light on that for us. So I think sort of given the lowdown of this to start is a good idea for him. So what I've said, I actually just asked him if he'd be up for it, but now my next email, he said yes. So now my next email to him is going to be, it might be a phone call, but probably an email where I'm just going to say, listen, we want to get this information to our journalists, an expert's viewpoint on how to use AI, when to use it, when not to use it, how to use it ethically, and then just hear what he has to say back. And I'll say, do you have what would be your talking points? What do you think is the most important for journalists to know? And he'll let me know and I'll be like, this sounds great. You always let them go with what they want to talk about. That's what they're most passionate about, unless it's completely off topic. And then, we've agreed on a date and that's great. And then that's really it. I then would send the information to you, Lance. And right before, gosh, I can't really remember the webinars that I've done. I don't think I do a practice session ever. Hazel has done a practice session before. She would be the one to tell you how to do that. I don't do a practice session, which is like the 30 minutes before a webinar starts. You can start the webinar, kind of make sure all the kinks are worked out. But another way to do that would be to start it for whatever, 7 p.m. And then you can get on, you can get on 10 minutes before. That should be plenty of time to work out if there's any issues. There's rarely any big issues. So anyway. And then as the moderator, you are going to monitor the chat. Sri will be up there. You will too. So you would introduce him, or I would introduce him, and just basically his name and title. I'll let him do the rest. And then he can just take it from there. He'll go through, you want to tell the person that they're about an hour. So 40 minutes or so, they've got that much time. If they really want that much time, 30 to 40 minutes, because then we can leave some time for answering people's questions. And that's where you come in. You will go through the chat and you can either screenshot the questions, you can write them down as they go, just so you're not having to backtrack all through the questions. And then you pick out the most interesting, the most valuable, the most helpful. It's your choice. And then have him ask, or you ask him the questions. You don't see the people in the webinar, so you don't see the guests. We just know they're there, but their faces aren't going to be on screen and they can't talk to our guests. So it's really just you and the host, the guest expert. So, I think that's it. I think that kind of is it in a nutshell. But for your first one, Lance, when you first do one, I can walk you through it, or I can send an email of how, like, here's the kind of email you would send, and I just would send it to you, and you can sort of make it your own and forward it. Like, I don't expect you to just be like, oh, okay, got it, let me go. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm happy to help, because then you'll be fine for the next one. Then you'll know what you're doing. So yeah, so that's a really good point. Like, maybe some people have not said, hey, let me do one of these, because you just don't really know how to do them yet, and that's it. So
Stacey, not sure if you're able to do this. Is that something you can maybe put in our Google Drive or something, just for new board members who've never done it before?
yeah,
Just
that's a good idea. Yep.
like
I'll
a little
just make
packet.
kind of like a sample email.
Right. Or just
it
starter
also-
pack and just what you need to do and what, because we're gonna
Yeah.
have this conversation over and over again. So just slap it on the Google Drive, maybe.
And sometimes you probably know, like when I saw where Sri is, I was a little bit like, oh, he's gonna want pay, just the way I had to fill the form out and all that stuff. So that's why I addressed that right away, because I didn't want to do it and then, oh yeah, I'd love to do this. And then another 2 emails later, then the awkward email is like, what's your budget? And I'll be like, 0. Right. So I kind of said it right away. If it's a person who's like us, not necessarily famous, Sri's kind of famous, not necessarily like super well known, then I don't think they would expect pay anyway. I'm actually speaking in, I don't even know, they might have kicked me out because I haven't sent them what I need to send them, but I'm supposed to be speaking on how to do something for freelance journalism in July. And like, I got a stern email that said I needed to do X, Y, and Z, and I just can't do it yet. So anyway, I was just going to do that. And then they said they were going to, that there was a stipend to go with it. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was kind of a surprise, but I don't think that I didn't expect that. I don't think most people would, unless you're like an in-demand, okay, people pay to hear me speak kind of person. You'll know when you're researching people, you'll kind of see how much their name's out there, who they work for. If they've got their own company, that's a sign that they probably want my money. Anyway, so that's a good idea though, Sergi. Am I going to remember this? Let me write it in here. And I probably won't do it until I open this up to make the agenda for next month, because that's just the way I work. I have a template, which you guys don't have to worry about anyway, because I'm doing the next webinar. So add a template for webinar. Let's add a template to email webinar hosts in my Google Drive. Okay. I sent you, just to talk again about the Google Drive, I sent, everybody got my invite to the On Your Own guide?
I did.
Okay. Well, if one of you got it, then the rest of you got it, so I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Are there any other, it's 8:03, are there any other questions or concerns? I have talked way too much this meeting. So I'm open to any other ideas or questions or topics. Does anybody have anything? I was just going to say I'm open to letting other people talk. And I realized how terrible that sounded. I'm open to letting other people talk for a minute. Does anybody have anything, any news? Okay. Must be not. All right. I'm just kind of going through. I think we've got everything. I feel good about next steps, especially with the On Your Own guide. I'll email you. Let me write that down. I'm going to email you the sections, and then you don't have to do this, right? Like, if you don't have time to do it, you don't have time to do it, and that's okay. We're all volunteers. But when you get a minute, if you can, then great. We'll take your editing suggestions. All right. Anything else? Sergi, tell me what you want me to not include in the AI.
I'm against AI, but I'll listen. It'll be informative. It'll be great.
If Sri does what he did at CMA, it'll be a fantastic webinar and a great resource. And I could only catch part of it during CMA, so I had to go to the airport.
Okay.
So, he did like the non-scary guide to AI for journalists.
Okay, awesome. I've seen some of his topics. Like I've read a little bit, and we could have a session a week with him. Obviously, he wouldn't do that, but like we could have an hour's not enough. But it's a good place to start, I think, and maybe we touch on it again, see how it goes. And I think, and I actually, just on a serious note, Sergi, just to think, or just to hear what you think about it after you hear someone like Sri talk about it, I'd be really interested on that, the people who are not on board. And I'm not saying I'm all on board 100% by any stretch, but I would be really interested in that. So that can be kind of a debrief for us just on the board. Like, what did we think? What did we get out of that? Did it change our mind on any level? So
I think it'd be really well attended. I think it's the way of the future, whether I like it, whether myself, what is English, whether I like it or not.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's gonna be, it's definitely something to deal with.
Yeah. And I think I told them too that I think we should not just promote this in the newsletter, but I think this should be promoted just on the calendar. We got to make sure we got that on there. And I think that it could be I think we open it to anybody in SPJ, not just freelancers, because it isn't just about freelancers. So I do think we should pull in as many, pull in as many people as possible. I'd love to do that. I just finished a graduate class. I got 100, by the way, but I just finished a graduate class, and one of the things I assigned, I had to like make up assignments on using technology and stuff. And one of them was like, instead of banning ChatGPT for students in high school who are going to use it anyway, show them how to use it to help them. Don't make it banned, right? Like, how can they use it? So one of my ideas for a creative writing class that I had to make up a class and like say, this is how I would do this, is to have them write, a critical response to a short story, something like that, right? And then have them use ChatGPT to write a response, ask the same question, write a critical response to this story, and then compare the two. What did ChatGPT come up with that they didn't think of? What did you come up with that ChatGPT didn't, right? Like where could you expand your thinking after reading what ChatGPT came up with? And just kind of a comparison thing. Obviously, that's not how journalists would use it, but I think that industries across the board are trying to figure out ways to use AI to help and not cheat, for lack of a better word, to cheat, right? Like to make things just brainless and whatever. I think some educators are really trying to do that. I am trying to do that. I've just been hired as the English teacher for next year for this vocational school that I work at. So I'm fully invested now in and how to do things like this. So I will definitely be using AI with my kids there. Okay. So I will keep you updated on how that's going, Lance. I'll send you the date as soon as I have the date for July for Sri. I'm going to send you his title. And then maybe a little bio. I don't know. He's well known enough that I want to make sure that people know who, like read a little bit about him before, but we'll see. So I'll send that to you, Lance, when I hear back from him. And then we'll wait to hear from Susan on the August 28th if she does find anybody. I told her to email me if she gets an expert.
Awesome.
All right.
I put something in the chat for after.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I saw. I'm gonna cancel, not cancel. I'm gonna stop the recording. Sorry. Hold on. Okay, let me stop the recording. Make sure you want to